Hello and welcome to Cooking the Books with Heather. Today we are doing another recipe that we're hoping might become a Christmas tradition. We'll see. We're going to make sausage stuffed honey buns from Vivian Howard's Deep Run Roots cookbook. I'm going to need to reference this quite a lot. There are 3 components to make, including bread, which is not my thing. And there's ingredients all over my kitchen because it's a lot. But one time my husband made overnight cinnamon rolls for Christmas breakfast. My kids don't really love cinnamon. They like snickerdoodles, but not cinnamon. They don't love cinnamon rolls. They're really weird sometimes. But I thought that maybe they would like these sausage stuffed honey buns, so we're going to test them out. The recipe doesn't do this, but I'm sure that you can make them the day before or a couple days before and refrigerate them and then bring them up to room temperature or warm them up in the morning, proof them in the morning, and then bake them like we did the overnight cinnamon rolls that time, and then we could have them for Christmas breakfast. So that is my hope. We'll see how it goes. First thing to do is it says to make the glaze and make the filling first, but we are going to go ahead and get our dough made, get it proofing. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to reference my book a lot. Sorry about that, but I'm going to need to. We've already got the milk heated just until bubbles start to come up the sides, and now it's cooling for about 10 minutes. We have some warm water, and we're going to add the yeast to it. And I'm going to stir it with this knife because I forgot to get a spoon. And this yeast is just going to start to become active. And start to do its thing here. And of course, it's sticking to my knife. So we need to let this sit for like 10 minutes now. And I don't think I have much else to do for you guys while this just sits. But I will check my book and see. I think I probably can get my shortening started. So we're going to go ahead and get our shortening mixing in the mixer with the paddle attachment until it's fluffy. Now I don't normally use shortening that much anymore. I used it a lot growing up, but I haven't. But I bought it for this recipe, and I bought it in these cute little sticks that are easier to measure. Shortening is one of the hard things to measure, kind of like honey. I'm going to move that away from the mixer. And where these things are really good for that, these plunger type measuring cups are really good for that. But with this, I don't even have to, because I need pretty much exactly half of this. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. And put the rest back in here. I'm going to get the shortening off my hands after I get this going. So I'm going to go ahead and get this mixing until it's fluffy, sort of all by itself, and then we add a few more things to it. So it's going to be mixing for a little bit. It's going to be loud, so we'll probably cut this part out. So we're going to go ahead and call that good, and I'm going to add the honey here. There's a lot of honey in this recipe, in both the dough and then in the glaze. So make sure you buy a lot of honey. So we're going to go ahead and mix this up some more. I'm going to add an egg and then mix it up. once it stops looking like it's all curdled, we're gonna scrape down the sides and go a little bit longer and then put another egg in. Still looking a little curdled, but you know, it's all gonna mix together with the flour. My husband's over here asking me what the difference between shortening and lard is and why you use it. Some people, I mean, shortening has different properties. It's solid at room temperature, but it's vegetable based, whereas lard is not. Where this also has pork in it, I'm sure it's not meant to be completely vegetarian, but I'm sure you could substitute a vegetable sausage, a vegetarian sausage. But I know some people say that shortening has different properties, will make your, a lot of people use it for pie crust, I think, because it makes it different. I haven't used shortening in a really long time, so yeah, I'm not exactly sure what it does, but she calls for it, so I'm using it. This is good for now. I think it's time for us to go ahead and get our milk and add the yeast to the milk. So our milk has cooled down to about 100 degrees, which is good because we don't want to kill this yeast. But we're adding our yeasty water here first. And we're just going to mix this with a spatula for now. So I'm just going to use the same spatula that I was using on this to wipe it down because it's all going together eventually anyway. And then we're going to add some salt and some sugar, which I've already measured out here. And then we're going to add 2 cups of flour to this. And we've got a lot more flour, so this isn't all the flour. That's just what we need for this part. Mix it up, and I think this should still be relatively batter-like, not dough-like. So hopefully. So now that we've got this all mixed, I was supposed to mix the yeast in with a whisk, but I'm pretty sure it mixed in pretty well anyway. We're gonna put this into a warm place for 10 to 15 minutes. I've got a warming drawer under my stove, so I've had that preheating, so I'm just gonna put it in there. Since it is winter here and chilly, we don't have another warm place really, so that's where it's going. Our flour mixture has been in the warming drawer for almost 15 minutes. I think you can kind of tell that it's bubbly. I don't know, I feel like it should be more battery than this, a little bit looser, but it is what it is. Now we're gonna gradually add this to the honey mixture that we made earlier, and at low speed. So I'm gonna put some of it in there and then turn it on, because this is won't just go in like I expected to, so we'll see. Like it feels like the recipe calls for, but can't pour it, so I'm gonna have to stop it every time. Our next step is to add the rest of the flour. This has been sifted, by the way, into this mixture in 4 batches. So I'm gonna go ahead and put about 1/4 of it in there. I kind of think we're not gonna need it all, but you know, so I'm gonna be a little bit more careful. And we'll do this also on low speed. All right. I was kind of trying to avoid getting flour all over the place by putting some in gradually instead of in batches, but that failed because I've got flour sort of all over the place already. But oh well. They do make little chutes you can attach that keep your bowl from spitting out flour when you do this, but I don't have one of those. So this all got incorporated relatively well, and I did end up needing all of the flour, and it's kind of still a little moist dough, as you can see, perhaps. So now I'm supposed to take this off, take the paddle off, and switch to the dough hook on my mixer. That is not as easy as it sounds, but okay. Okay, got the dough hook on here. We're going to turn this on and turn it up to medium and mix it for about 10 minutes. So we'll see you in 10 minutes. So here's where I have to admit that I did call in my professional bread making help to help me with this. It started out all clumped around the thing and not sticking to the sides, and then about in the middle it started sticking to the sides and it didn't get much better. We did end up adding about another spoonful of flour to it. We did lose some throughout the process from the sifting and the putting it in here and explosions of flour. So that might be it. Our flour might need more water right now because it is winter. I don't know. Who knows? But we did end up adding a little bit more. My mixer is very warm right now, so it's had a workout. But now we are to take it out of the mixer. There we go. And knead it for a couple minutes by hand, which is not my strong suit. But so I've got that all here. And on a floured work surface. So we'll be adding a little bit more flour to it. So I'm just going to be kneading this for a couple minutes. So I'm supposed to be going for as smooth as a baby's bottom, and I think it's pretty smooth, and I'm going to call this done because this is my least favorite part. I've got a glass bowl here that has been lightly oiled, and I'm gonna put this in the bottom, cover it in plastic wrap, and then it's gonna go into the proofing drawer for about an hour. It's super fun. There we go. Try to get it to cover the whole thing. I did ask my bread guy why a glass bowl instead of metal, and he says yeast can react with the metal. So he says, but he doesn't know for real. Apparently, this is what he's saying behind the camera right now. But we always use glass, plus plastic wrap sticks well to the glass. So this is going in my warming drawer. So now we're going to make the glaze and the filling while the dough is rising. In the book, she says to make the glaze and then the dough and then get it rising, but to streamline things while we're waiting for an hour, so we're not just waiting. One thing I have to do for the glaze is to zest and juice these oranges. So I'm gonna do that. First, I'm gonna zest it because it's easier while it's whole than after you juice it. I'm just trying to get the orange bits off, not the white bits. So, and I'm gonna put it all in this bowl right here. It all goes in together, so. All right, so now I'm going to cut these in half and use my juicer here. It's fine. Don't love it, don't hate it, but it catches the pulp, and it has a smaller for like lemons and limes and a larger side. So use a larger one for oranges. Try to get as much juice out as I can and not make it go everywhere. All right. Okay, so I'm just gonna pour from here into my bowl so it's all together. And then I have thyme, because there's also thyme in this. So thyme sprigs, and it's all gonna go in together, so I'm just gonna put it in this bowl for now. And next we're gonna meet at the stove to go ahead and put our glaze together and then get our filling ready. Be right back. Okay, so I have quite a lot of butter here, melting in a 2 to 3 quart, this is a 3 quart saucier, saucepan, whatever you've got, medium heat. And now that it's melted, I'm gonna add the rest of my ingredients, which is some sugar. We'll go ahead and put the thyme and the orange juice and zest in here that we just made, just prepared. And then we're going to put in, this is corn syrup, not corn oil. My husband made that mistake one time, trying to make divinity. It doesn't work that way. And then we have a lot more honey. And this all goes in here, and you bring it up to a boil and boil it for 1 minute. So, on medium heat. So that's what I'm gonna do. The thyme sprigs are gonna be pulled out after it's done, so you don't have to worry about those, but it'll just add a little bit of flavor to this glaze. This is taking forever to boil. I turned it up a little bit, still not boiling. Okay. I think I'm going to start timing now, so about a minute. Okay, it's been a minute. We'll stir it up and turn it off. And now we're just going to take out the woody parts of the thyme. I think most of mine were connected together. Hopefully they stayed that way. Oh, nope. Saw one, I think. Maybe not. Oh well. If I find it later, I can pull it out then. And we're just going to let this sit. Our next step is to lightly brown our sausage for the stuffing. So we'll get set up for that. Meet you right back here. So I have the same breakfast sausage that I used for the sausage balls that we made previously. And we're just going to brown this lightly in a pan. We don't want to cook it entirely. We just want to render a little bit of the fat that we're going to then strain out. I have a sieve set over a bowl to catch the fat and break it up. So that's what we're doing now. We're not aiming for thoroughly cooked here. So just so you know, it's going to finish cooking inside the honey buns. I'm going to call this done enough. It started to render the fat a little bit, and it's almost all the way cooked, but not entirely. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get all this into my strainer. Okay. Now she does say you can do both the glaze and the filling beforehand, and they will keep in the refrigerator for a while, but or at least the filling that we're going to be doing, making with this sausage has to be brought back up to room temperature before you can spread it on the honey buns. So just FYI. So we're going to set this aside, and next thing we're going to use our mixer again to mix this up into the filling. Be right back. Now we're getting ready to make our filling. So we have some butter here that's supposed to be softened. It's been sitting out for a while, but it's kind of cool inside. So we're gonna paddle it by itself for a minute just to sort of make sure it's soft enough. Okay, I'm gonna need a spatula, just 1 second. At the end of this recipe, like all of my spatulas are gonna be dirty, and I have a lot of them. Anyway, so now we're gonna add some dark brown sugar and some honey. So there is honey in every part of this recipe, and it used a lot of honey. I bought a large jar of it a while back, but I knew I had it. If I had not added it all up, I would not have had enough honey for this if I hadn't bought the really huge jar, because I would have just bought a small thing of honey thinking it was enough, but buy a lot of honey. So now we just mix these up together before we add the sausage. I'm just gonna scrape down the sides, get it all worked in together. One more time. Now we just add all of our sausage and mix it up lightly. Sort of, you don't want to break it all up too much, but you want it to be a homogeneous mixture. So. There we go. So I'm going to mix this together I'm just going to mix it together on stir, mine, which is the lowest setting mine has, so. All right. Since the sausage was still warm, it kind of melted things a little bit, but that should be fine. It'll have some time to cool now while we wait for the bread dough to be ready, which is supposedly almost there. I'm gonna check to make sure it's actually doubled in a couple minutes. Just checked our bread dough and it's not quite doubled, so we're gonna let it go a little bit longer. Like I said, kind of chilly here. It takes a little bit longer for things to rise when they need to be warm, even though it's in the warming drawer. Whatever, we'll let it go a little bit longer. But we can go ahead and get our pans ready. We're supposed to fill 2 round cake pans a quarter of the way with our glaze. There will be some left over to drizzle on top, so I think I'm gonna get a ladle so I don't make too much of a mess. I'll be right back. Like I said, gonna dirty everything for this recipe, but I'm just gonna ladle these until it's about a quarter of the way full. I'd say those are about a quarter of the way full. Glaze tastes pretty good. Mostly honey and citrus, honey and orange. I'm gonna put these over here, out of the way. Seems like a lot of glaze in there, but we're following the directions. And there's still, as you can see, plenty left in my bowl for drizzling. So we're gonna put this back over here. I've decided this is doubled in volume, so we're going to, I'm gonna take it out of here, punch it down, and divide it in half. And I've just gotten oil all over my floured surface. Oh well. So punch it down and divide it in half, because it's gonna make 2 pans, 2 rolls worth. So there we go. And take half of it, and each half we're gonna roll into a 8 by 10 square. I'm gonna try that. I'm trying to get it 8 inches this way and 10 inches that way. I'm totally gonna knock my bowl down while I do this and try not to. Anyway, what do you think about that? All right, we're gonna call that good. And now we put half of our filling on this. and spread it out, leaving an inch gap on all sides. I think also leaving a 1 inch gap on all edges. So pretty good, I guess. This is a little less spreadable than I would expect it to be because our sausage was still pretty warm, but I'm gonna put about half of it on here. Guess that's okay. And now we roll it up. Just making sure I'm doing everything right. Because it's still a little warm, it's hopefully, I'll try to keep it from spilling out the edges. I'm gonna try to pinch those seams together because it really does wanna spill out. And then we're supposed to rest it on the seams and slice it in half, and then slice each of those halves into 5 after we discard the ends. So let me get a knife. All right. So slice about 1 inch off of each end to discard. I know cutting on this is not great. Probably could use that, but I'm not sure about how well it would cut. So I'm gonna cut it in half and then cut each one into 5. Nope, that's a little too little. Okay. Everything is seeping out at this point. That's great. Okay. Oh, I need to get both of them cut because they both go in one, both sides go into one pan, so. Yeah, I did much worse on that side, but oh well. Okay, we've got our pans that we have pre-filled. Put them cut side down into the glaze. I really think we need to be careful with filling next time if we do this again, and cool off our mixture before we put it in here. Trying to make room. I swear I did everything like she said. But anyway, we're going to do the other one, and we're going to put plastic now. I think we don't put plastic wrap over them now. We just put them in our warm place to rise for about 30 minutes. I'm going to clean up a bit and work on the other one. I might put my filling in the refrigerator for a couple minutes. We'll see. So as you can tell, I went ahead and rolled out my other dough, my other half of the dough, but my filling has been in the refrigerator for almost 30 minutes, and so the other batch has been rising for that long, and I think they're ready to go in. So I was going to show you what those look like. As you can see, they all kind of grew and came together. So now I'm going to cover this with foil, and I'm going to put it on a baking sheet because I'm a little afraid that this honey glaze is going to boil out a little bit, just in case it's going to catch it. So, and we're going to bake it for 30 minutes with the foil on, then take the foil off and let it go for 15 minutes. So we're going to do that. And then I'm gonna show you what it looks like when the mixture, the sausage mixture, is not quite as loose, and hopefully we won't lose as much. So just a second. Okay. So my sausage mixture here is definitely less loose. There's a little bit of liquid in it, but I think we'll be okay, especially because it's gonna heat itself back up in the oven. Hopefully I did okay with dividing it in half. If not, these will be extra stuffed and the other ones will be not quite as stuffed. But anyway, so I'm gonna spread this out. Looks like I got it pretty much halved, so that's good. So just like the other one, I'm gonna roll it up and hopefully not lose as much as I did with the other one. Now we'll get this into the other pan. As you can tell, the glaze has hardened up a bit more there. Fit that little tiny one in there. There we go. All right. Didn't lose quite as much stuff, although my work surface is very dirty. I'll clean that up. We're gonna put this in the warming drawer to raise for about 30 minutes, and then we will put it in the oven when we take the foil off of the other one. So I'll let you know what they look like when they're all done. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, you have watched me make sausage stuffed honey buns. And if you did, and if you stuck around this long, thank you, because this was a very long recipe for us to film, for us to make, because you have to make the dough and let it rise, you have to make the filling, you have to make the glaze, and then you have to sort of put it all together. It was a lot. It didn't require too much special equipment. It did require, you know, a stand mixer, but you could get away without that for probably everything that you needed to. I mean, you can always knead bread by hand. It just takes a lot longer. I'm not a bread kneader, but I usually let my husband do that. Yeah, so that was all. It was a lot. And it required a lot of honey. Like I said, there was honey in every step. And these did turn out very sweet. And sadly, sat them down in front of my kids, and my daughter looks at me and says, "I don't really like honey." So this will probably not be our Christmas morning breakfast. Because I'm not going through this effort again for something my children won't eat. Not for them. I will do it for other people. I did take the leftovers to work with me because it makes a lot. It makes 2 pans this size, so that's like 20 honey buns, and everybody enjoyed them. Everybody liked them. I got a couple of people asking me for recipes, so that's great. So they were delicious. Everybody liked them. It has I think I would prefer maybe a little more sausage in it. And maybe that was just, I had a problem separating it out into the 2 halves. And when I ate the first half, which may have been less, but also the sausage filling kind of, since ours was a little on the wet side, I think my sausage was too warm when I mixed it into the butter and the other ingredients, and so the butter kind of melted, and it was just a little bit more difficult. The second time I did a little bit better because I did let it chill, but yeah, I would prefer a little bit more sausage and a little less sweet. So definitely I could cut back on the honey glaze. I think I found this recipe online, and I'll link that below, where she made it all in a larger pan and used only a half recipe of the honey glaze. And I think that might be better. I don't know, might be less, but we still have some of the honey glaze left in the refrigerator, so we didn't use it all. So whatever. Anyway, if you think you'd enjoy this recipe, I think you should make it. If you have the time, if you want to go through the effort, it's very impressive. It really is. It's an impressive recipe. So if you're willing to put forth the effort, I think it's very much worth it. And I hope you enjoyed watching me cook it. And if you did, please hit the thumbs up below and subscribe to come back and watch me cook something else.